Have you ever been confused by what a guy's real intentions are? What if I told you you can actually trick men into revealing to you his real intentions accidentally? If you want to learn this secret sneaky strategy, then join me on today's show where we'll be discussing how to get men to reveal their intentions to you. That way you never again waste your time, your energy, and intimacy on a man who doesn't even want the same thing is you. You have to be wet by words. As he's talking about himself, his life, and the things that he's looking for in a relationship, what you want to be doing is you want to be making him what we call feel good. And we're going to discuss what it really means to feel good throughout the show. We want to be encouraging him as he's talking. Then what's going to happen is as you encourage him as he's talking and you're making him feel good, he's going to share more. How does being wet by words fit into what you're trying to do here? Okay, so here's what I want you to understand. One of the ways that you can really hit a man's ego, because a lot of the times whenever you want to affect a man's thoughts, you want to implant seeds inside him, you want to make him feel a particular feeling, you always want to understand how do you touch the ego, because that's the thing that's going to inspire him to take action on whatever the thing is. All right. So what I mean by that in this scenario is we want you to hit his ego by making him feel good about the process of sharing through the concept that you are wet by his words. Meaning, you want to come to this date with the energy that, hey, when you start talking about yourself, it's so fascinating, it's so interesting that as you're talking, I just start feeling all over my body. And it just it takes me to a place that's so magical. I've never had a man talk like you do. Your voice is so sultry. Your raspiness just takes me to a different place. Can you please talk some more? I'm losing control of my body. I know when I'm doing it and we're talking about it in class, it sounds very ridiculous. Why would guys care or be affected by the fact that I like his voice and like to hear him talk? This is an ego stroker. And I know I tell you guys not to ego stroke men in a way that will have them look down upon you, but ego stroking positively can do good things for you if you're doing it for the right reasons. So in this scenario, you're ego stroking to continue to have him share with you, right? Because you want him to feel good about the process of sharing with you and being honest with you and talking about what he wants and his own life. As you make him feel good about that, you're simultaneously going to be encouraging him through a plethora of different techniques that we're also going to talk about in this show. And then it's going to lead him to share more with you. And this is the loop you want to put him in. It's like a trance. So what I want you to understand about today's show, when we're talking about getting a guy to reveal his intentions to you, you're actually putting him in a trance. And that trance is going to trick him into actually telling you the truth instead of doing what men are most likely to do in relationships and on dates, which is as they talk more, they start to feel like, I probably shouldn't share that, right? Because what's going to happen is instead of them feeling good a lot of times, right, they feel bad based on some ways that you might react or respond to him, right? And instead of encouraging him, you actually discourage him. As you discourage him, instead of sharing more, he will share less. And so this becomes the cycle a lot of the times when you're not actually focused on doing what you need to be doing to get him to reveal truths to you. A lot of what I say and talk about in this show is going to sound a little bit counterintuitive to you, but I want you to be sure that we're doing it for a specific reason. So as it relates to being wet by words, the way that you're going to present yourself is that you actually become turned on physically. And I mean like it actually creates lubrication in between your legs to hear him talk more about himself, because his life, the way he thinks, the way he acts, the way he goes about things, his intelligence, you can add on all the sauce, just makes you so lubricated you don't feel like you've ever met a man as fascinating as he is. Even if that's not true, I want you to understand you're trying to help yourself do something here. And what you're trying to help yourself do is get him into a cycle of talking and sharing more. And the way you do that as it relates to men is you hit the ego. And in this case, you're stroking the ego. You're making him feel like the man for sharing more with you. Point number 2 is perspective. All right, so you have all these soldiers here. And you have the man here and you have the ex here. So very important, right? We're at war at this point in a relationship. We're at war at every point in the relationship, right? It's always a battle of control. Now, very important that for this part of the conversation and what you're trying to accomplish, you're trying to get him to reveal things to you. So what do we really mean by reveal things to you? We're talking about telling you the truth of his intentions with you, whether or not he just wants to sleep with you, whether he actually wants to be in a relationship with you, whether he wants to date you long-term, short-term, make you a side chick. Does he have another relationship, another family? You want to be aware, how do you really feel about me? And what are you really trying to accomplish here by talking to me and taking me out on this date? One of the grave mistakes you're going to make, though, is that when he begins talking to you about his life, and especially when he begins talking to you about the topic of his last relationship, you are a woman. And so there's probably a lot of times where a guy will talk to you about a situation that he's dealt with another woman. And you tend to be able to see the perspective of the woman a lot better because you are a woman. So when he's describing to you how he treated his ex or went about the relationship, or maybe he cheated on her because he was sad and he was lonely for a couple of weeks and he went on a business trip and he's telling you all this information, you're thinking to yourself, oh my God, I've been that girl before. I've been in her situation. You end up being in a position where you actually take the side of your ex. Now, the reason I wanted to present this as a visual for you is because imagine this as a war. And you're actually on a date with this guy. And as he's telling you about real interactions he's had with his ex, or interactions he's had with past relationships or situations, even if he's telling you about side chicks that he mistreated and he played because he didn't really want them, right? And you're taking the side of the woman or the side chick or the ex because you're thinking to yourself, no, the way you treated her was horrible. The way you went about the relationship or the situation was inappropriate. You should have done this. You should have talked to her. You should have called her. You should have reached out. And you're thinking all of these thoughts. Now, you're thinking what might actually be true. You're thinking what might actually be morally correct. But here's the problem. When you take the ex's side or the woman's side when he's telling you a story about his life or his past relationships, these men immediately shut down. Why? Because similar to a war, they now see you as the enemy. They're telling you about someone they disagreed with, someone they broke up with, someone that they feel like was in the wrong. Because trust me, everyone thinks that their ex is the one in the wrong, all right? So as he's describing this story to you and he realizes that you're on the ex's side, then you become an enemy where he starts to say, oh, why am I going to start sharing with you more information and give you more details about my life, more details about what I did and how I operated? Imagine if instead of just having the one story about him cheating on his ex the one time when he went on a business trip, in reality, he's cheated on his ex 15 times and he's done it in her house and he's done it with her sister and he's done it with her best friend. Imagine if he had those stories still left in the tank to tell you, but you didn't get that information because you already seemed to be on the side of his ex and to be taking her side just by the simple time that he began sharing, just from the beginning of him starting to share with you, I should say. And as he starts to share with you from the very beginning and realizes that you don't see his perspective and that you're on the other side, he immediately begins to take the defensive and says, perfect. Now I won't share with you any more secrets. I won't go into any more detail, and I'm definitely not going to tell you about the other 14 women I slept with while I was in this relationship with this ex. But what happens is, imagine if you're in a situation where you only hear the surface level of the story, because quickly he realizes he can't tell you too much without getting judged or without making himself less desirable. Then, when you make a decision about whether or not you want to date him or be with him, rather than you being able to make the decision based on all of the truthful information laid out to you, you're now making a decision based on a small sliver of information that is so surface level, you're not actually properly able to gauge who are you and what are you here for. So the reason I say that and paint that picture for you is because you do yourself a complete disservice by not understanding how much of a fatal mistake it is to put yourself in the shoes of the other woman and try and see her perspective and try and preach her perspective to him. Because when you want a man to reveal his real intentions to you, what you gotta do, and those of you paying attention know exactly what I'm about to do right now, what you gotta do rather than being on his side in the relation, on her side, is you gotta present yourself as if you are completely on his side. You've gotta see things his way. You've got to imagine them his way. You've got to think the way he thinks. You've got to follow his logic train, okay? You've got to have empathy for him and his experience, whether it's good or bad, because you're doing something for yourself, not for him. You're doing something for yourself because when you side with him, when you say, oh, I see your perspective, I understand what you're going through. I see how you came across that decision or you made that decision. Even though you're saying it's a mistake, I understand what it's like to be in that position. Or I can only imagine how hard that was for you to go through, where you were so lonely and you were going on jobs and you were stressed out and you finally had someone to comfort you, right? Seeing his perspective is so valuable to you because now, they always talk about creating a safe space, a safe space, a safe space. You're actually creating a safe space for him to feel like in this war of relationships, right? And dynamics, he has you on his side fighting with him, instead of you on the opposite side as the enemy that he's fighting against. So he no longer has to feel defensive towards you. He no longer has to feel like he has to keep secrets from you or not tell you some things or only share with you the tip of the iceberg. Instead, just like if you're at war with someone else, you have your people that you're at war with and you're going to war with, he's going to tell you some of his deepest, darkest secrets. He's going to tell you his weak points. He's going to tell you his mistakes. He's going to tell you the places that he went wrong. Right? And when he tells you the places that he went wrong, now you're getting a whole lot of valuable intel and information. Now you're learning so much more about him. Now you're starting to actually see him for who he really is. But he doesn't realize that as you're gathering this information, you're deciding to yourself, am I actually going to be with this guy for who he really is? Or as I'm hearing who he really is, will I actually choose to not be with him? Point number 3, you're going to fake share. Because the problem is every time you say things like, oh, I want flowers, he's now building. He's got the head now. I love a intentional man. Once again, now he's building the hair out. All of the different things that you can say, he's going to be building out his painting of who he thinks the man you're looking for is. And that can be a mistake because then you're not actually getting his real intentions. You're actually getting a fake version of his intentions based around and structured around what your deeper desires are. Okay? But the problem is, by the time he makes it so specific to your deeper desires, you actually feel like it's real. Okay? And you feel like it can't be a coincidence that someone would show up into your life doing exactly the type of things that you want, saying exactly the type of things that you want him to say, acting the exact way that you've always dreamt a man would act for you specifically. Because you're thinking, well, won't he already know that I want a guy who's intentional? Or won't he already know that I like a guy who does this or does that? Not necessarily. And especially when you're talking in depth and in detail about what you like, you don't even realize you're not just painting a picture of a general guy that you would like. You're painting a picture of the exact guy that you have been dreaming of. So when you go into all those little details, you'll be shocked because you don't realize it. Because when the guys can get you into a trance of dumping and sharing and sharing and sharing, you don't realize you'll start going into the most specific of specific details of like fantasies that you've always had that a man would do for you. Then when you're experiencing it, you won't realize that, oh my gosh, this is a curated experience. You'll be thinking, oh my God, this experience was bestowed upon me because this is my perfect man. So you have to fake share. What do I mean by fake sharing? You're going to essentially become very good. We might even have a whole show on this. You're going to become very good at saying a whole lot of nothing. You're going to yap, yap, yap to make it seem like you're very open to discussing and talking about yourself and your desires as well. But you're not actually going to say anything real or detailed that would give him any real good information of how to paint the perfect picture for the man that you're looking for. So what does that really look like to be fake sharing? So for example, this guy comes on a date with you, and he asks you the prototypical question, what are you looking for? Instead of you telling him all the details of the Prince Charming guy that you're looking for and the dream that you've had of being by the hillside and seeing the orange sky, instead of that, you tell him things like, oh, you know what? I'm just allowing myself to date people and experience people. You put the sauce on it, okay? I'm allowing people to date me, and I want to experience them for who they are and really just focus on understanding the human being that I'm on a date with. Because I feel like if I go in with too many expectations, then I'll be boxed in to what I expect from that guy. And I want to be open to the possibility that I might meet the love of my life and he might be a little bit different than the person that I was thinking in my mind. So I really just want to soak the person in for who they are and experience them exactly as they exist, because I feel like that's the most powerful way to build a deep romantic connection. You see how I just made it seem like I'm really saying something, but I actually haven't given you any information. So when you walk away on the date and you're thinking to yourself, what is that girl actually looking for? You'll realize, right? Well, the men won't realize this until later. There is nothing to go off of, right? I just spent the last 15 seconds going into detail as if it felt like I was really passionate about this and like that was my real honest answer deep inside my heart, telling you how I really feel about this and how I feel about that. But I didn't actually give you anything that you can use, because what are you supposed to do? Be yourself. So what use is that to you? You don't know how to act. You don't know how to talk. You don't know how to present yourself. You're going off of no information, which is exactly what you want. So we're going to discuss body reassurance. So your words, right, which you're trying to create a safe space. But you have to understand that in order for this to work properly, your face also has to create a safe space. And subsequently, also, your body has to create a safe space, right? Because all of these things have to be in alignment in order for what you're trying to do to work properly. So why is this point called body reassurance? Because this is one of the major places you can start to make a lot of mistakes when trying to get a guy to reveal his interest to you. Body reassurance is so important to getting guys to actually be honest with you about who they are, what they're here for, and what they've been through, instead of giving you this curated story time about how, you know, they're Prince Charming and all they've ever wanted to do was be in love with the love of their life. Okay, sounds good in a movie. A lot of times that's not really what a guy's real intentions are. So creating a safe space, not just about discussing it, not just about saying you're open and you want to hear what he has to say. It's about understanding that as he's actually telling you these things, I know when you start to listen and hear guys say some things, you're actually going to be shocked about how well this starts to work. So as you're applying what we talk about and discuss here, you're fake sharing, you're asking good questions, you're looking inquisitive like you care. Oh my God, you're seducing me by telling me all these things about yourself. He's going to start spilling and spilling and spilling. Then you're going to start realizing how well this strategy is working. And he's going to start telling you some things that you never in a million years thought someone would reveal to you on a first date. And some of the things that he's going to tell you will be shocking to you in nature. Okay, they're going to be graphic to you in nature, like they have those warnings on TV shows. As he's telling you these things, though, you have to make sure that your face and your body is in alignment with the safe space that you're trying to create. What do I mean by that? Do not make the mistake of, as a guy is telling you and revealing to you what his intentions are. So did I say interests, right? What his intentions are to you. Don't make the mistake of having your face scrunched up. He's telling you, so yeah, I actually did cheat on my ex when I went on a work trip. And you're like, and your reaction is making him feel like, oh, you said this was a safe space, but now that I actually tell you something that I'm either embarrassed about, I'm not fond of, you know, a mistake that I've made, I'm seeing through your body language, right? Because body language is the face and the body, that you don't actually approve of what I just told you, or you feel a way of what I just told you, or you have a particular judgment or opinion of what I just told you. That is horrible for you and what you're trying to accomplish, because that will also make men shut down. And once they shut down because they don't feel it's safe to actually tell you, like you're not actually on their side, you won't get any truthful information. And this is something that you don't just do on one date. This is something you do on multiple dates, and you continue gathering as much information as you possibly can. So when he's telling you the story about how he cheated on his ex, you have to, I know this is going to sound really strange and weird. You got to practice that keeping a neutral face, or practice what it feels like to keep the face of, oh, I'm interested in what you're saying, and not be affected body language wise by him telling you something that you don't want to hear. Okay? And I know this is going to sound very, very weird, because you're thinking, well, Tomisin, I'm just being honest about how I feel and my honest reaction to what he's telling me. The problem is your honest reaction to what he's telling you is telling him something. And then when he pulls back on the information he's going to give you, or he decides that now instead of telling you the whole truth, he's going to twist it and tell you a lie, you actually end up losing because you wanted to give him an honest reaction. Because now that he tells you a lie, you don't get to know the truth about who he really is until you actually have to find that out by dating him yourself. So I say that to say, on your dates, you actually have to focus on when he tells me something that I don't like, or I don't appreciate, or I don't agree with, my demeanor, my body language, and my face language is still body language, is still gonna be, oh, I'm turned on, I'm listening to you, you're interesting, and I understand you, okay, right? Even if you don't necessarily agree, you don't have to lie and say, I completely agree with your actions, okay? That's gonna seem a little bit weird and unnatural. What you wanna focus more on is, as you're telling me this, even if you tell me that you went on a cheating spree and you cheated every day for 365 days on your girlfriend, you want to say, okay, explain to me your thought process. Why did you do that? How did you get to that point? What transpired in your relationship that brought you there? Try your best to understand his perspective. And as he explains to you his perspective, what you want to adopt is, even if I don't agree, I'm not going to change my body language. I'm not going to change, have my face scrunched up or look as if I'm not open to hearing what he has to say, right? I'm going to look open to what he has to say and open to understanding him. Point number 5 here. You're going to repeat back. He's telling you things about himself, right? He might say something to you like, I was sad, so I cheated. What you want to return to him from your full diaper here, you want to return to him as you're having conversation with him and talking to him back and forth. You want to start repeating back to him the perspective that he said he had. So remember when I talked to you about it being kind of like a war, and when he's talking about his past relationships or past experiences, you want to make it seem like you see his perspective and you're on his side, fighting the battle alongside him so that he can continue to share with you more secrets. The same thing in a practical sense you're going to be doing here, right? So you're going to be in the process of when you're asking him questions and having conversations with him, you're going to be saying back to him, you were sad, so you cheated. Now, the reason that I actually want you doing this is because it's a great way to show the guy that you're getting to reveal his intentions to you. It's a great way to help him understand that you're listening, you're aware of what he's saying, you're absorbing it, and you're actually seeing his perspective, okay? Someone said marrying him. Yes, it's like that to an extent. And in this case, you're showing him that I actually can see what you're saying. And I understand the point of view that you have. So as you're talking, so for example, he's saying, yeah, so basically with my last ex, we were going through this really rough patch and I went on this job trip and then, I cheated on her because we were in a really bad place. You then repeat back to him because he's going to yap. Then there's going to be a little bit of space for you to then return and start talking as well. You're going to use this as a way to show him, I understand you. Oh, so you were telling me that you went on this work trip and in the process of that, you got really sad about your relationship and that caused you to cheat. So can you help me understand when you were there, how long was that happening for? How many days had you guys not been speaking for? Was it 24? Was it 1 month? How were you feeling during that time? Okay. You see how I repeat the statement back to you, right? I repeat the perspective back to you, and then I lead that right into my next question. Because this process of getting a guy to reveal his interest in you or in a relationship is not just about asking him one question and expecting him to spill everything. It's about understanding that you're going to ask a question, and you're going to ask a follow-up question to that question and a follow-up question to that question. And the conversation is going to flow where he's going to feel like you're having a conversation, but he's not going to realize that it's really just him talking and sharing. When you start doing this right, guys won't even realize that they've spent the last hour or 2 hours just talking about themselves, okay? And I'm telling you this as someone who uses these techniques myself. Right? In talking to people, they'll be like talking and yapping, and then 2 hours down the line, they'll say, you haven't shared anything about yourself. I've been talking about me for the past 2 hours. And I'll say, oh, sorry, time's up. I gotta go.